and welcome to my podcast, Soul Expansion and Inspiration. This is Series 2, Episode 3, and my name is Allie O'Shea. I would like to give a very warm welcome today to a friend of mine that I've known for about 3 years, Robley Buckman. Robley is a teacher, a law of attraction practitioner, and life coach. He is also a fantastic writer, and I have long admired his musings that he posts on social media. He has 2 forthcoming books, Taking Wing, Flight Lessons for the Soul, and It's Me Again, A Journey Back to Self. Welcome, Robley.
Welcome. Welcome indeed. I'm gobsmacked to be here. Thank you.
Love it. One of my favorite words.
Yes, I love that word. It's really awesome to be here. I always enjoy talking to you. And what is it Keith Richards says? I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be anywhere. That's just a great philosophy.
Absolutely. Happiness is the key. So, oh dear. Yeah, you say that your journey, Robbie, started back in 1998 when your third wife and family, you lost your third wife and family. And you were basically plunged into the dark night of the soul and felt completely broken. You say that you were suicidal and raged at God, saying, "What do you want from me, God?" And you began to study everything that you could that led you to a new understanding of God, which then in turn led you to the law of attraction and where you are today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about this period in your life, if it's not too painful for you?
Sure. Yeah, that was a really difficult time for me. And as you say, I was literally raging at God. I just couldn't understand. I was trying to do everything right, and yet I kept having the rug ripped out from under me. And then, and it's like, what do you want from me? And so I actually, the first year was really brutal, and I pretty much went through it subconsciously. All I wanted to do was sleep, and I really couldn't tell you what I had done during the day. I just on autopilot.
Sure.
But I eventually ended up going to see a therapist because I knew I needed some help, and they diagnosed me with something called existential anxiety, and she said that there's no cure, but of course we can give you some pills, and you can come back and see me. And that just enraged me even more, and it was, I remember walking out to the parking lot. I got these prescriptions in my hand, and I just ripped them up and tore them apart and stuff. It's just like, no, this is nonsense. I know what caused this. I wasn't born like this,
Yeah.
so there's got to be a way to get out of this, and so then I just started. I've always been an avid reader, and I just started reading everything I could get my hands on. And probably the first book that I read that was really helpful was a book by Debbie Ford.
The Dark Side of the Light Chasers.
Dark Side of the Light Chasers. And I remember reading that book and thinking, boy, I wish I had the money. I'd get this book into every student's hands in the country, because it would change their life, and we'd put therapists out of business.
Wow.
But then I started reading, about religions and different psychology texts and stuff, and I just came to a completely different understanding of God. And this probably won't sit well with some people, but I came to the conclusion that God just doesn't really care, not the way that we think about it, and that's why we have this conflict between a jealous, angry God and then this loving God. God is all of those things. I think the problem is that we try to give human characteristics to God so that we can understand him, but God isn't human.
Exactly.
And then when I reached that perspective, then I realized that that's why we have both good and terrible things happening, because from a God perspective, everything just is. Everything is okay. Everything is, a
As it's
sense of
meant to be.
balance. You're
Yeah.
right. It's a sense of balance. And then it was then that I started to realize that I don't have to live up to these expectations that religion asks of us, and um, I began to start searching for other things. And many years before I had been introduced to the Tao and the Seth material with Jane Roberts, and that led me to Ernest Holmes and Dr. Joseph Murphy, and these were all things that I had studied and I understood on an intellectual level, but I didn't know how to apply it,
Right.
and it just had never worked for me, but I never let it go. And I was on YouTube looking for a music video or something about ghosts or something of interest, you know. And I kept seeing these things about Abraham, Abraham, Abraham. And there's this picture of this woman. And I'm like, why is this woman called Abraham? Who would name their daughter Abraham? And I just, couldn't understand. So finally I clicked on it, and it was Esther Hicks, obviously. And I'm listening to my first Abraham
Clip. Yeah.
clip, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is the Seth teachings. And then I'm like, well, this is an interesting stage gimmick, and then I kept watching some more and more, and I'm like, okay, well, if this is a gimmick, then she's got to be the world's greatest actress, and then it just hit me again that it doesn't matter. What matters is the material.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
the thing that I fell in love with Esther and Abraham right away was that this is all the stuff that I had studied for all these years, and now I'm getting a practical way to apply it.
Yeah. Yeah. What did
Seth.
you think in comparison with Seth and Abraham? Because I don't resonate with Seth at all, which is really strange.
Seth strikes me as the university professor, and I think he even makes comment about this in some of the material himself, that he kind of pompous, and he gives you all the nitty gritty details and just kind of overwhelms you with everything about it. But that loses me.
Mm.
And then Abraham I see as the trainer. Abraham has taken all of this and just brought it down to the nitty gritty. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of like taking your automobile to the garage to have work done on it. You need to have a fan belt changed or a battery changed. I don't need the mechanic to explain to me the internal workings of the combustion engine.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because it's overcomplicating things a little bit, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. And with Abraham, I found a practical how-to application to apply these principles, and all of a sudden it just started working for me.
Yeah.
And so that was basically my journey in a nutshell.
Amazing stuff. You actually answered some of the questions I had for you within that little story.
Oh, okay. Well, we can go back and clarify if there's anything
my next question was about John Girard, who was your first teacher. Now, I've never heard of him. Do you want to talk a little bit about him?
John Girard was a fascinating, interesting man. He was probably about 10 or 12 years younger than me. I was 16 at the time, and I was working in a department store, and I'm sitting at the lunch counter. We had a restaurant in the front, and I was sitting at the lunch counter, and he just walks up to me out of the blue and sticks his hand out and says, "Hi, my name's Girard, and I can tell we're going to be great friends."
And how old was he at the time? Like 4?
I was 16,
and
he was about 10 or 12 years older than me.
Oh, he was older than you. I was like picturing him being younger. I thought you said he was younger.
No, he was older. But I came from an an affluent community, and I was what we called a preppy kid, very well dressed, and my hair was a little wild, but other than that, I was very well dressed. And I look at this guy, and he's got this tie-dye T-shirt on, and these filthy bell-bottom jeans. He's got long, flowing black hair and his big bushy mustache. He looks like Frank Zappa. He's like, he's got his hand out. He says, "I can tell we're going to be great friends." And I'm thinking to myself, not a chance in hell, buddy. But I took his hand and I shook it, and he said something like, "See you around," and he picked up a cup of coffee or whatever he had ordered and left. And I didn't think anything more of it. And it was about a week later that I'm working in the store. I was working in the garden shop, and my boss tells me that we have a new employee and I have to train him. And it's this guy, Gerard. And anyway, we became the best of friends, and more like brothers. And he just had this unbelievable gift of finding humor in any situation. And I actually met him just at the beginning of a very serious crisis in my family. So I've always said that he always showed up just when I needed him most. And anyway, he fascinating guy. As young as he was, he had done so many things, far more things than most people do in 40, 50, 60 years. And he taught me how to scuba dive, how to fly,
Wow.
taught me some of the martial arts. He's the one who introduced me to the Tao and Buddhism, and the Seth material. And he just had this way of
Universe sent him to you.
yes, asking me questions all the time, and about how I felt or thought about things, and then he would kind of guide it around and direct me into a new line of thinking. And so yeah, he my first real mentor and teacher. He would end up passing away several years later, very young age, under somewhat mysterious circumstances, actually. But I've always kind of wondered if he really wasn't more of an angel, like a guardian angel, because he came when I needed him and left when I didn't anymore. And,
yeah. I'm sure he's still with you.
yeah. I talk to him all the time.
Yeah. As we know, our souls never die, and we are eternal beings. So I'm sure that he's with you, and it's quite possible he's your guardian angel.
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. So you've talked about the dark side of the light chasers. You also have talked about your friends Judy Wright and Sue Welch Metcalf, who helped to complete the process of helping to pull you out of that depressive state alongside that book. Do you want to talk a little bit about your friends that helped you through that?
Absolutely. I love these two women to death, and in fact, my book is dedicated to them.
Oh, beautiful.
Judy, I met her probably about a year after all this, just as I was starting to figure out I needed to do something. And her and her husband actually took me in. I ended up living with them for a while, rented a room from them, and but they kept me stable and included me in their family. And today we are a family, and Judy's my sister, is the way I think of it. And anyway, she's always been like an anchor and somebody I could talk to, and she would keep me grounded. And I like to say that she's the one who gave me the rope and started pushing me up out of this pit that I was in. And it would take almost 15 years. And then I met Sue. I call her herself.
Yes.
But she was actually my boss. when I met her, and she has an amazing story. Um, we hit it off pretty well right from the beginning because we have a similar management philosophy and background and stuff. But we were kind of like yin and yang. She was always very positive, always had a bounce in her step, smile on her face, and she. It, I was the opposite. I was negative, So she was kind of the inspirer, the cheerleader, the pusher, and I'm kind
Yeah.
of the happy guy, But we worked well as a management team, and we worked pretty well for a year. And I really didn't know much about her. I knew she was married, and I knew she had some kids and stuff, but I really didn't know much about her personal life. And it was about a year into our relationship that I discovered that uh, her husband was fighting cancer, and she had an adult child at home, a daughter, who had cerebral palsy. And
Okay.
Alicia was, I don't like to use this term, but she was basically a vegetable. She depended on everybody else for her support. She was in a wheelchair, and sweet girl, but
Yeah.
she had no control over her bodily functions and stuff. So anyway, I find out about this, and I'm looking at Sue, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not impressed anymore. I'm in awe, you know.
Yeah.
And I made a point of telling her that, I don't know how you do this. You have all this stuff on your plate, and you come to work here every day, and you've got this smile and this bounce and this enthusiasm and optimism. Teach me to be more like you, and she did.
Wow.
Uh, and so she's the one I credit with grabbing the other end of the rope and finally hauling me out of that pit. And she did
Oh,
that by just changing the way I think,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
to both of them, they have my eternal gratitude, because I have no doubt in my mind that the only reason I'm here today is because of them.
oh, that's a lovely tribute
So,
to them. So thank you for sharing that with us. You became a teacher mainly through your writings, you say, and you have a modest little life coaching practice. I know
yes,
from our conversations over the years that you've helped many an addict to break free from the chains that bind them, as it were. Would
yes.
you like to tell us a little bit about your coaching and how it works?
Um, yeah, I deal mostly with alcoholics and addicts, and uh, that came about as in my last relationship. She had a major problem with alcohol, and anyway, she had some legal issues that arose because of that. And she was under court order to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and
Yeah, yeah.
I would go with her just to make sure that she went. And one of the things that I noticed was that anytime she went to one of these meetings, she was actually worse off afterwards.
Really?
And um, and the other observation that I had at the meetings that I attended was that they kind of would devolve into like a major pity party, and then they would
Wallow.
yeah, but I also felt that the program was just beating them over the head, and humiliating and embarrassing them, and I'm like, I don't want to knock the organization or their teachings. They've helped a lot of people, but I think they've also failed a lot more. And I understand that at the time that they began, they didn't know things that we know today about psychology and so forth. But anyway,
I'm really interested to know, did you have to sit there and go, hello, my name is Robley and I'm not an alcoholic?
no, it really is anonymous, and you participate if you want to, and I just kind of sat in the background and just
Okay.
observed. But there was one meeting, they trot this fellow out, and all kinds of cheers and stuff, and he says that he hasn't had a drink in 25 years, you know, and the place is going wild. And then he says, but I still struggle every day. And I'm like, what the are you talking about? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you haven't had a drink in 25 years and you still struggle? And then I'm thinking, you know, all the stuff that I've learned, you know, the science says that, you know, we replace our body every 7 years. So, you know, he's replaced his body at least 3, maybe 4 times. You know, there's not a cell in his body that's ever been exposed to alcohol if he's telling us the truth. So the addiction isn't physical, it's got to be mental. It's up here. And then I'm thinking to myself, you know, you're not addicted to alcohol, you're addicted to AA, you know. But anyway, that got me to thinking. And what I did was I took basically the AA program and I flipped it. And I tried to, instead of beating people up and forcing them to do these 12 steps, 9 of which can probably just be tossed out the window, it makes it more difficult. Give them ways to empower themselves. And I mean, the biggest problem they have is they have no self-esteem for the most part, and they feel like victims. And so we turn that around, and basically we just change their way of thinking.
Yeah.
And we do that by being positive. And in fact, my very first session with them is the only time we ever mention alcohol or drugs, and that's only because we tell them that we're not going to talk about alcohol and drugs, you know. And we replace things, you know, like, you know, I'll ask them, you know, how does it feel to stand up in front of the room and say, hey, my name is Joe and I'm an alcoholic? You know,
Yeah.
that's humiliating, isn't it? You know,
Exactly.
everybody knows you have a problem. That's why you're here. We don't need to beat you up about that. And so we'll start with, you know, hey, my name is Joe. I'm happy, healthy, and whole.
Lovely. I love that.
Isn't that what you want to be? Well, let's focus on what you want to be. And that's what basically I do. And several years ago, I heard an interview with David Breslow, who's called Mr. Simple. And his philosophy was that I don't do problems, I do solutions, you know. And that's always stuck with me, and I try to keep that principle in mind when I'm working with people. And it's basically, you know, I don't really need to know about your past or what your problems are. I mean, for the most part, they're not what you think they are. You know, you know, they're symptoms of a problem which I already know about. So we don't need to talk about that. Just tell me what it is you want, and then I'll show you how to get there. And that's how I approach it.
Perfect. That's fantastic. And I know you've helped many, many people over the years. So that's amazing.
Now, thank you.
You've recently just set up a new Facebook page, which is brilliant, and everyone so far is engaged and interactive. Would you like to talk a little bit about that new group called Taking Wing?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. 3 weeks. We've been online 3 weeks, and it's exploding. I mean, it's doing far much better than we expected or anticipated. The Taking Wing group is a vision I've actually had for a number of years now, as I'm putting all these pieces and things together that I've learned. And I think I mentioned earlier, I wanted to get Dark Side of the Light Chasers into everybody's hands. I've always had this vision of wanting to build a school, kind of an institute of advanced human being, and where I bring together teachers of different disciplines and philosophies and stuff, and we could disseminate this stuff, get it into the educational systems and so forth. And it's been a dream for years, and I've been working on it. And I've been trying to find locations and stuff. And then I'm talking to this Irish girl one night. I think you might know her. And she kind of got in my face, and she's like, you know, what the are you talking about? She said, you use the internet.
Yeah.
And well, that goes to show my age, okay? Because I'm on the internet all the time, but it never occurred to me to use the internet.
That's
so,
really quite funny.
so, so thank you, Allie O'Shea.
You're welcome. I think you're doing an amazing job with
But
the group.
so anyway, we've started phase one with the Facebook page, and the whole concept behind that is to bring teachers and practitioners and healers together with students from all around the world, and create this global network of people connecting with each other to take each other further along on their journey.
Co-creation.
Yes, and to co-create together and make a better world. And it's been astonishing. And I've, like I said, we've only been online 3 weeks, and I've already received a number of messages of people telling me how it has changed their life. And
that's amazing.
And I received one last night. Very lovely message, and I honestly don't know that I actually gave her anything useful, and I'm not sure that that's what she wanted. In the end, I think what it was she just wanted somebody to care, and that's one of the things that has been happening with this group, is that there's a lot of love being shared, and people are finding and feeling that they're being cared for, and that's been a beautiful thing.
It's got a beautiful energy about it. And I was just going to say to you there, I saw this morning, and I know you saw the post, that when I looked this morning, there was 444 members, which is an angel number.
Yes.
Your angels are with you. So we had to take note of that this morning. I'd also just like to address the fact that your group is named after one of your books.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, how far have you gotten along with that book, Taking Wing?
Let's see, I'm on the 5th rewrite.
You're rejigging it.
The book is essentially done, but it's every time I think I'm ready to go to publish it, I learn something new, and so I go back and try to work that in there and add it to it, but it's essentially done now. I do need to get a book cover, and so I'm looking for that. But I just got to stop playing with it and just put it out there.
It'll all be done in divine timing. It'll all be done in divine.
Yes. Yeah.
I would never worry about that.
So,
everything will happen when it's meant to happen.
But the whole concept of the Taking Wing group and the eventual school or institute, whatever, it all derives from this book, basically. And the book is, I call it Flight Lessons for the Soul. It's essentially the steps and exercises that I used to get myself to where I am today. And so we talk a little bit about my life and what brought me to these things, and then this is what I found, and then this is what you do, and so hopefully it will help other people as the way it helped me. So
that's brilliant.
Some of the stuff is things that I think I came up with, although sometimes when I think I come up with something, I find somebody else has already done it. But a lot of it is stuff that I learned from other great teachers, and of course we credit them in the book. And so I think I just got to get it out there.
What's your other book about?
That one's more of an autobiography. It's kind
of a story, really, is it?
It's more,
like mine,
in a sense, it's the same book but without the exercises, and it tells my story and my thought process, and what I've learned,
Yeah.
and how I came back to being, basically. I think most people can probably relate to this. I spent most of my life trying to be what I was told I was supposed to be, and fulfilling other people's
Wishes.
ideas of how I'm supposed to live and what I'm supposed to do and accomplish, and in the process, I lost myself, and I didn't even really realize that until just recently, and putting all these pieces back together. And um, you might recall, it was a couple years ago now that I got reconnected with my high school sweetheart,
Judy.
and Judy, yes, and she called me one night, and she says, "It's me again," and that it just hit me, and I'm like, "Wow, it is her again, and it's me again," and so that kind of was the inspiration for the book, and so
Excellent, because a lot of us on social media followed that little kind of love story.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And you
the
met up, didn't you? You met up again and you went on a trip together and
yeah,
hung
yeah.
out and
And
had
I
fun
saw her
together.
again last summer, and we talk regularly, and so
Yeah,
I'll be seeing her again soon, sometime this year. So, but
fantastic.
yeah, it's been wonderful. it
Absolutely.
It's the one relationship in my life that didn't end badly. It just kind of ended because of circumstances, but it didn't end badly. So
You say that we couldn't serve or help others as we do now if not first going through a baptism of fire. And I, of course, completely agree with you. Without the contrast and experience we have gone through in our lives, we would not be where we are today. You say that you want people to know that no matter how dark, terrible, horrific, or painful things may seem, that there is light in the distance and a gift to be had. If you can accept that you just don't know enough and that what you think you do know and believe might be wrong, then you will find your answers, your path, and you will know greater peace, joy, and happiness than ever before. But I think that's beautiful. So, and you know what? It's just a testament to the way that you write. You write so beautifully, and I've long admired your work on social media. As I said to you, I love the way you write. Sometimes they're so long I don't have time to read the whole thing, especially. But I've always admired your writing. So I'm sure that not only myself but the listeners will be extremely pleased to get their hands on a copy of your book when it's released.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you would like the listeners to know before we leave? I know, just let them know also about what services that you specifically provide and where people can reach you should they wish to avail of any of your services or contact you.
Okay, well, right now I still work a job, so I have limited time. So my coaching practice is I've kept it small. It's starting to grow now, but you can reach me through Taking Wing on Facebook, and you can send me a what do they call it, instant message, or you can reach me at takingwing at yahoo.com would be my email. We'd love to see you at the Taking Wing group page on Facebook, and you not only would you get a chance to meet me and what I do, but some other fabulous teachers as well, including Miss Allie O'Shea.
Okay.
And
Actually, do you want to talk about your dream team as well before we wrap it up?
sure, my dream team is the core Taking Wing group, and they are the people who are closest to me, my confidants, who know my thinking and aren't afraid to set me straight, and they inspire me, and we brainstorm constantly to find solutions and so forth. And well, that and you'll meet them on the Taking Wing page at Facebook. But there's Christine Marie, Lori Anderson Deckard, Judy Wright, and Sue Metcalf, who we already talked about, Russell Robineau, Teresa Beavers, and they have my heart and gratitude.
Is Gypsy one of the dream team?
Gypsy Phoenix too. Yes, absolutely, and she's a key member, and she's holding down the West Coast for us right now. So.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Well, you guys are doing a great job in there. It's such fun, so interactive, and everybody's really enjoying it. So congratulations on making it a success.
Oh, thank you.
Week.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just, we're available to help if we can. And I would just tell everybody that no matter what you're going through, there is a light. You just gotta stop resisting and just look for the gift. It's there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Robley. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm sure the listeners will get something from it, as they always do. I'd like to say for now, thank you so much, and namaste.
Thank you for having me. Namaste.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
I love
Bye,
you.
listeners.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.